hey, I saw a movie. Yeah, imagine me seeing a movie. I mean, there are only dozens upon dozens of reviews for movies and TV shows on my channel. So, hey, I saw a movie. You probably couldn't guess that from the video title. But also from the video title, you can probably surmise that I did not go see the more high-profile movie that's coming out this Friday, Transformers: Age of Extinction. And the reason for that is because, well, I couldn't do it. Especially with the reviews it's been getting, I could not, in good conscience, with any kind of self-respect intact, go up to the ticket counter and say, 1 for Transformers: Age of Extinction. I'm not going to give Michael Bay any of my money. If I ever see this movie, it'll be when it's on TV, or I may rent it just to see if it's any better than the other ones. But no, I'm not going to give Michael Bay any money for a theatrical release. I'll rent it from some library or something. But that's enough with the negative. Instead, I saw Snowpiercer. Now before I say anything else, I just have to point out, what is it with these really good smaller, or what is it with really good thought-provoking apocalyptic / post-apocalyptic sci-fi movies this year? Because we had The Machine, we had Edge of Tomorrow, and now we have Snowpiercer. Now, for those of you who don't know, this movie actually marks the English language debut of South Korean director Bong Joon-ho. Now he is responsible for 2006's The Host. Clarify, 2006 is The Host, not the horrible Stephenie Meyer Host from last year. In order to counteract global warming, humans sent up some type of chemical experiment to halt global warming. It was only supposed to halt global warming. However, it actually worked too well, because it basically plunged the Earth into a second ice age, to the point where nearly all life on the planet is extinct, and the only survivors were those who were able to board this train called the Snowpiercer, which is completely self-sustaining and is always running, and it is specially equipped by the CEO of the train company, Wilford, to kind of combat the harsh environment that it has to run in. So it is completely resistant to the snow, and yeah, the only survivors are about 100 or so people, or a few hundred people who managed to board the train. And the train has subsequently, within the last 17 to 18 years, or 18 years, yes, it has been separated into different class systems. The lower class, the really hungry and thirsty and starving and dirty lower class, the poor, what would essentially be the equivalent of the slums, or what would be a shanty town. They live in the back, okay, farthest away from any kind of supplies. And as you get closer to the front, life becomes even more and more prosperous, until you come to the very front, the engine, where Wilford himself resides. Now someone named Curtis, he and his fellow resistance fighters have, played by Jamie Bell and John Hurt, along with Octavia Spencer, are organizing this revolt. Now, there have been revolts in the past, but supposedly there are messages coming from an unknown source near the front. So Chris Evans' character Curtis, he basically says, now's our chance. I mean, after exposing the fact that the guards who are delivering minimal supplies to the lower class are completely out of bullets from other revolts, Evans himself starts this most recent revolt, and the whole movie basically revolves around these these lower classmen steadily working their way through what they eventually discover is an entire society inside this train. I mean, this train is essentially its own separate world. I mean, each train car is completely different. You have a garden train car, so you have a nightclub train car. So yeah, the premise itself seems fairly straightforward until there are a few unexpected twists thrown in, and more than a few significant statements made in the realm of social commentary. Now, as you can probably guess, the premise is a little odd. I do have to give them points for originality. Now, first of all, how are the performances? Because what good is a movie like this if the performances are not up to par? Well, Chris Evans gives an electrifying performance. I mean, he makes for a very convincing leading man. And at first I thought he was just going to be kind of generic action hero guy. I mean, he has impressed me in that field before, I thought the same thing initially about Captain America. Captain America was just going to be this bland, cookie cutter action hero character. But much like Captain America, Chris Evans surpasses that archetype. Except he does it much differently here. I mean, this is a very dark character, and you don't really learn just how dark until the movie unfolds. I mean, this is a character who is very much shrouded in mystery at the beginning, and the way that he kind of becomes more interesting, and the manner in which you learn some of his tragic origins upon boarding the train. I mean, you really feel for this guy while at the same time really getting into Evans kind of portraying this very darker side to, again, what is at least at first glance your standard issue action hero. So Chris Evans as Curtis Everett, he is so good in this movie. I mean, he gives, honestly, I can really see Chris Evans as a leading guy more often. I mean, if you were just to watch his performance in the Fantastic Four movies, you wouldn't really consider him leading man material, or some of the comedies he was in. But honestly, within the last few years, he's really proven himself to be a very down to earth, very intriguing actor. I mean, at least in terms of his performances. So yeah, he's very good. Song Kang-ho plays this person called Nam, who along with his daughter, played by Go Ah-sung, I'm probably butchering these names, I'm sorry. They play these kind of these Asian prisoners who the rebels free, so that because Nam, he was previously the security expert until he was thrown in prison. So they free him and make a deal with him to get them past each door to the next car. Okay. So they're both really good. I wish the movie had given them more time, honestly, but overall, yeah, they're pretty good. They do a good job of really managing to make these characters interesting, while at the same time not really playing all of their cards at once, if you get my meaning. I mean, there is something more that this character wants, and this character is clearly not willing to reveal all of his agenda before the end. So to be able to work with relatively little material toward the beginning and still be interesting, I think it's a real credit to these two actors' talent. I mean, it's a shame I haven't really seen them in more things, but they must be really big in their native country. I mean, because Chow Yun-fat, I had never seen Chow Yun-fat in anything before Pirates 3. But I learned he's one of Asia's biggest superstars. So it just shows how uninitiated myself and a lot of my American peers are in the way of foreign cinema. But Jamie Bell plays Edgar, who is kind of a younger soul, who who joins up with Curtis's revolt. He really looks up to Curtis, almost like this big brother figure. He's pretty good. I mean, he's not in your face. I mean, he does add a very welcome energy to the movie, but without it seeming irritating or annoying. I mean, it's not like your standard issue Shia LaBeouf character. It's not. Here's an example of where I think this character has been done wrong, and I'm just picking a pretty easy example here. I mean, I know this is kind of like kicking a dead horse, but Shia LaBeouf in Crystal Skull, as Mutt Williams. Shia LaBeouf in that movie, I realized he was supposed to be this very hot-headed young soul who's kind of supposed to clash with the older, more experienced character, but you know, he just wasn't very interesting. And Jamie Bell, yeah, he's not as interesting as Chris Evans' character, but at the same time, you can really feel the earnesty behind his bravado, as it were. So yeah, Jamie Bell's really good. John Hurt and Ed Harris are relegated to relatively minor roles, but they make the most of their scenes. I mean, John Hurt and Ed Harris, you don't see these guys in enough movies nowadays, or at least not enough high-profile movies. Not that this is a high-profile movie, but I digress. John Hurt and Ed Harris, you know, like I said, they make the most of their scenes. They deliver the goods when the camera focuses on them. They do a good job of making even the exposition seem exciting, which really shows the high caliber of these two actors, particularly with Ed Harris. So John Hurt and Ed Harris are excellent in the movie, and even more minor players like Tilda Swinton and Octavia Spencer. Yeah, you could possibly say that these characters are a little bit too stock in Octavia Spencer's case, or too over the top or cartoonish in Tilda Swinton's case. But you know, this movie, for the most part, is grounded in reality, but at the same time, you can tell that there is this sort of quirky, oddball charm about it. I mean, some of the weirder moments in this movie actually give it more of an identity when compared to something else in this genre. So when I see Tilda Swinton as comic relief, she's not annoying. I mean, she does work as the comic relief. slash secondary villain. Partially because, again, she's not really in your face. She is playing it straight. She just happens to be playing she just happens to be reading off really ridiculous material. And yeah, she's aware of the ridiculous material that she's reading, but again, she's playing it completely straight, while at the same time containing just a hint of self-awareness. Like, yes, I know what I'm saying is not does not really conform to the usual social norms that we find nowadays, but you know, this is just the way things are. I can't do anything to change that. Come on. And Octavia Spencer, she probably gets robbed the most in terms of what she is given to do, because really she is just kind of one note in wanting her son back. But you know, she still manages to be a sympathetic character, so I can't really fault her on that. I mean, she plays that part well, even though I wish she had gotten a little bit more time. But really, where this movie shines is in a lot of the social aspects that it tries to tackle, and you know how and what it tries to say about society as a whole, and how sometimes natural selection isn't really good enough. I mean, all of these very at times unethical approaches to a lot of these social issues. Yeah, you could argue that they're kind of out of place in today's world, but if you were put in this desperate situation, a lot of what Ed Harris, the villain, is saying does kind of make sense. I mean, you do get the sense that yeah, he is just doing what needs to be done. I mean, just from a logical perspective, in order to maximize the sustainability of this train and the resources on this train and the population of this train, certain extreme measures need to be taken. So yeah, that does make him a bad guy in the sense that he is willing to go in the sense that he is willing to do some pretty dark stuff to achieve his goals of sustainability. But you know, at the same time, he's not completely in the wrong either. I mean, you really get the sense that he believes that, yes, I am doing something right. He's not the mustache twirling villain, you know, like, oh, I'm evil, I control people, blah 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 blah. No, he thinks he's the good guy. He honestly believes, and for a second, I honestly believed that there's really not a whole lot of other ways to approach some of the problems. I mean, you know, with the consumption of resources and the amount of people on the train, and what one of the ultimate twists really is, I bought it. I mean, as crazy as it could sound, it actually kind of made sense. I mean, there are probably holes that you could find in the plan. You know, what if so and so had not proceeded exactly as so and so? I mean, there's only so much that this character could do to guide this other character on this other path. But you know, when all is said and done, Ed Harris accomplishes his goals in this movie. He implements his plan, and you know, the heroes actually lose. They lose, and they lose because, like he said, that is how things have to be. And the more I think about it, the more I'm actually kind of siding with the ending. I mean, when I first saw the ending to this movie, I said, okay, there's some parts of this I like, but some parts of it I don't like. But before I get to that, I'm surprised. This movie was apparently made for about $40 million. And granted, some of the effects kind of show that relatively low budget in today's blockbuster world. But for the most part, the movie does a really good job of keeping things appropriately claustrophobic in terms of its atmosphere. I mean, you really feel like you were on this train with these passengers. And whenever it does open up and let you see the surrounding tundra, then yeah, it feels appropriately impactful, because like I said, for about the first half hour or so, for the first about half hour to 40 minutes, you basically see nothing except the inside of this train and the inside of the poor people's section of the train, the back of the train, no less. So yeah, when you finally do see the outside through the windows, and you do get a better visual sense of this world and how it's really all gone, down the drain. The effects for the most part do a really good job, and again, this is by no means an effects-driven movie. The characters always come first. The story and the atmosphere that goes on in this train, and again the social messages, always come first before the effects. I mean, there aren't really a whole lot of effects in this movie. There are some, but they're few and far between, and when they do show up, they don't distract, which is something that this movie can definitely hold over something like a Michael Bay movie, or to a lesser extent, a J.J. Abrams movie, a modern day J.J. Abrams movie like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. And again, I like those movies, but there were a lot of big budget effects in those movies, and this is kind of a refreshing step away from that for anyone who is interested. Now, getting back to the ending. Now this is a spoiler alert. Or you know what? I can probably do this without spoilers. The ending, at first, I thought, doesn't this just kind of make the heroes out to be somewhat of bad guys, since they are. I mean, the decision that they are making and what ultimately happens to this train, isn't that kind of relegating them to the realms of unlikability? But at the same time, upon thinking about it more, and this is one of the things I like about this movie, it encourages you to think. if this is the way that this society has been brought up, again, I'm not trying not to sound too morbid here, maybe the only way to really move on is to start fresh, which is something that they hint at with the end. I mean, kind of starting fresh. And you know, maybe we don't have to live in these confined quarters anymore. I mean, maybe things are now opening up to where yeah, we can start fresh. So maybe what ultimately happens to everyone. I'm not doing a very good job of keeping this non-spoilerish, but maybe what happens to everyone is sort of the movie's very dark way of really hammering home its message. So I don't know. That's just my take on the ending. But if there are a few things I had issues with, really, I think some of the relationships between the characters could have been more fleshed out, and I think we could have seen more of them, especially given what we learn about them later in the movie. For example, we learn how Chris Evans met, how Chris Evans' character Curtis met Jamie Bell's character Edgar, and it's this very dark, somber story, which also involved John Hurt's character. But, you know, up until that point, I don't really think we had gotten quite enough interaction between the two for that to be as impactful as I think the filmmakers wanted it to be. Again, it's powerfully acted by Chris Evans, but again, I think if we had gotten a little bit more building of the relationship between the two, maybe again going for more of an older brother sort of thing with it, then I think that could have been a really heart-wrenching moment, or at least more so than it was. That could have been easily the most powerful moment in the movie. Which, it's up there, but you know, I think it could have gotten that extra edge with a little more scenes between those two. And the same with other characters like Octavia Spencer. Again, I don't really think she needed to be in some of the scenes that she was. And that could partially be due to the fact that we never really get any concrete indication of what kind of relationship she has with, say, Chris Evans' character or Jamie Bell's character. All we really learn about her in relation to them is that she is a fellow member of the lower class. I think if we had gotten some indication of past interaction between her and the other passengers in the back car, then I think her being in the movie, and again what ultimately happens to her, I think it would have been a lot more impactful. So that's really the only thing I can criticize the movie for, because again, the acting is solid, the pacing is good, the atmosphere is very accomplished. I'm surprised at how much they managed to sell me on this futuristic, this very grim future with as relatively little money as they had at their disposal, at least in comparison to, again, a Michael Bay movie. The social commentary is probably the strongest aspect of this movie. And it's really what propels this to being a good sci-fi movie to a great sci-fi movie with something very meaningful to say about people, not just in this post-apocalyptic future, but about people today and what's best for societies today. So yeah, I really like this movie. It's definitely one of the better movies of the year, and like I said, come the end of the year, I mean, at least unless the second half of the year is filled with just utter crap, it's gonna be pretty difficult to sum up the best movies of the year, at least for me, because I've seen a lot of good movies this year, thankfully. And this is another one, Snowpiercer. Please watch this instead of Transformers: Age of Extinction. Please. You will feel so much more fulfilled if you watch this. Please. Watch Snowpiercer. It's awesome.